and invite my colleagues, Kristen and Jessica, to introduce themselves and begin the presentation. Kristen, would you kick it off?
Sure thing. I'm Kristen English. I serve as Vice President for Enrollment Management at Monmouth, overseeing admission with Amanda and the Office of Student Financial Planning, or financial aid.
And I am Jessica Johnston. I'm the controller at Monmouth College. I'm also an alum, so I graduated here. I always age myself when I say this, but in 2004. So this is home for me in a lot of ways. All right. And Kristen, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can. Looks great.
Excellent. All right. Well, I know you've been welcome, but I will welcome you again. So again, this session is called Dollars and Cents, Money Matters. No one's ever accused me of not being corny. So, but money does matter. And so hopefully this presentation is helpful to you. Hopefully that it answers questions that you may have. And one thing you'll hear kind of repetitively throughout this presentation is if you have any questions, we're totally here to answer any and all questions. So feel free, again, use that chat function during. And if you have something very specific to yourself, there's also contact information at the end of this presentation. So if it's very specific to your scenario or your situation, that'll be an option as well. Okay. So again, we're trying to answer burning questions. So obviously trying to sit in your shoes and figure out what are your burning questions right now. So some of the things I'll be addressing just through the presentation. Again, we'll have hopefully at least 15 minutes for Q&A as well. But when are bills generated? How will I receive my bill? How can I set up a payment plan? How does a student get an on-campus job? Can I change my meal plan? And can I purchase more flex? Okay. So starting first and foremost with the billing. So first bills for a fall semester were sent out on July 2nd. Those were distributed first and foremost to the Monmouth College email addresses for each and every student. One thing I'll say here is if you're like, well, I don't know if I have my Monmouth College email, or I haven't tried to get into it, or I can't, access it or whatever, I would encourage you, and I'm volunteering my admissions colleagues, but I would recommend that you reach out to your admissions counselor and they can assist or help you with that. Okay, so that's where they're at. As far as where the bills are, there'll be a link in the email and it will take you to our self-service program. Hopefully you're familiar with that. If not, we do have something on the web page, kind of like a tutorial document that would help you through that. Okay. One thing I always want to point out, sometimes if there's parents on this, I was going to say phone, but I guess on this video conference, this is sometimes the surprise, shock, and maybe frustration for some parents. So off the bat, you will not receive your student's bill directly to you, mom, dad, or whomever. So the students are responsible for their own account balances, right? So in the eyes of the law, they're legal adults. And so what they need to do if they want to share that bill with mom, dad, or whomever is we have an online proxy process through that self-service portal that I was just talking about. And so again, we have a tutorial document that we can share if you struggle to get through that process. I hope self-service is pretty user-friendly, but again, we do have those resources available if you need them. But just know that, again, it's similar to HIPAA, so that's always my analogy. So when your child, if your mom or dad, or grandma, grandpa, guardian, whatever, when your child turns 18 and you take them to the doctor, they actually have to sign a paper to give you access to their health records or allow you to call mom to make their appointment or whatever. So this is similar in that we're governed by the FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so those balances are the student's responsibility, and only they can share that with you. Okay. Again, on the self-service portal, you'll see both the billing and you'll also see their financial aid information. So you'll see what pieces of the financial aid package are being applied against that outstanding balance. And also a reminder, super exciting for us, books are included in the price of tuition. We feel as an institution that this better serves our students. It allows them to apply financial aid against the cost of those books, and it's just one less thing to have to worry about. So that's super exciting, and different. You know, Monmouth is different from other institutions that way, so worth pointing out. Okay. So once you look at that bill and you see the financial aid that's applied against that bill, if there's any out-of-pocket balances, we have several ways that you can cover that. This would be on the email that you received July 2nd. And I actually think we've sent a follow-up already, or reminder, but bills are actually due for the fall semester August 1. So if you're working on paying that out-of-pocket balance, you know, on that statement, you have several options. Again, debit, credit card payments. We take those within that self-service platform. So when you're in that self-service system, there's a way to make a payment direct through there. You can also use our third-party payment plan provider, which is Nelnet. You can either do a one-time bank transfer if you want. It's kind of like an e-check through that Nelnet platform, or obviously there's a tuition payment plan that, like I said, that we do through Nelnet. They are our only payment plan provider. We do not do in-house payment plans, so that's a third party, but obviously is all linked up to Monmouth College. And I have a slide on that subsequently here. In addition, the private alternative loans are always an option. Examples of this would be like Discover loans, Wells Fargo loans. Again, there's a variety and I couldn't name them all, but those are options. Federal Direct Parent Plus loans are an option to cover that out-of-pocket balance. And that would be something that my financial aid colleagues could guide you through. And then we do accept personal checks mailed to our Monmouth College business office. Okay. So as promised, here is a subsequent slide. So this just shows you if you're on our monmouthcollege.edu webpage and you're navigating, you'll see it's kind of gray, so it's not super dark here, but you're basically going to the business office site. And then there is kind of a navigation bar that's shown here, kind of a light green color, gray maybe. There is one labeled tuition payment plan. So if you click on that, this is the page that you'll see. And again, this tries to step you through setting up that payment plan. Again, if you get into it and you're really confused or have any struggles, you're welcome to call the business office. We are pros at walking everyone through this. You should have received a flyer, for lack of a better term here, that looks similar to the Tuition Smarter thing shown here on the left. And so again, I believe on the back side of that are instructions, and I believe there are instructions, and there's also kind of deadlines. One thing to note on tuition payment plans, so we Monmouth College bill tuition by semester, okay, because it's governed by your registration, which we register by semester, okay? But we always advise people when you get into Nelnet, if you're setting up a payment plan, you'll have an option to set up a semester only payment plan or a full year payment plan. It's our recommendation here in the business office that you do an annual one. The reason for that is a couple things. One, they can always be adjusted if necessary, but if you kind of get it set up to begin with, right, it's kind of a one and done, check the box, and you know, you're set up kind of for the whole year. Again, if it needs to be adjusted, it can be. But the other thing is that Nelnet as a provider charges a fee to set up that payment plan, and an annual one, I don't have the number in front of me, I believe is $50 for an annual, but if you do it by semester, it's $35. So if you did it by semester, then you end up doing it again in the spring. In total, you've paid $70 in fees, whereas you could have taken your fall out-of-pocket balance, you know, kind of thumb in the air, multiplied times 2, and paid less in fees, if that makes sense. So that's kind of our overall recommendation for our students and families. Okay. Student employment, another thing that sometimes surprises people. So federal work study and non-federal work study jobs are available on campus. It is the student's responsibility to search for those jobs, to apply for those jobs. We have employment classifieds on our website, and that's kind of the mechanism to do that. Again, sometimes it's a surprise to people that if you as a student or you as a parent or your student receive federal work study notated in their award letter, that's not like an automatic that just happens. We don't just slot them in a job and then their earnings are automatically applied to the out-of-pocket balance. That's not really how that works. I think probably the only communication that you get from the admissions office where that might be misleading is in that award letter. I think we do a good job otherwise of trying to differentiate that out in the cost calculator and some other things. So hopefully that doesn't surprise or confuse people, but I like to mention it here just so there's not, confusion, because we have, occasionally we'll have a student come to the window and say, well, I thought it was in my award letter, and so I thought it just kind of applied to that balance. Well, no, that's not exactly how that works, right? So, okay. Meal plans and flex dollars. All residents are automatically assigned to the Edinburgh meal plan. It's an all access plan. There are different meal plans. There's 3 primary ones, and then there's a commuter plan. You can change your meal plan using this web page. So again, this is being recorded and these will be linked to the web page so you can access this later. Or as I'm talking in my long-winded fashion, you can try to jot this down, but it's monmouthcollege.campusdish.com. Students only have the first week of each semester to change those meal plans. So week 3 into the semester, you can't change your mind to go from an all access plan to a 14 meals per week plan. You have to make that decision through that first week, okay? And flex dollars, which are kind of like a prepaid debit kind of card situation. When those flex dollars that are loaded as part of your meal plan, those are accessible to the student on his or her ID, school ID. And they do carry over from the fall semester to the spring semester, but we do not carry them across years. So through the spring semester, through the summer into fall. So oftentimes in the spring finals, those students are working hard to use up those flex dollars at the coffee shop or buying snacks at the Scott's Market, or I mean, there's tons of ways to use them, but they just have to be conscious and cognitive of that. Okay. And as promised, I tried to go efficiently fast, but not too fast. We wanted to leave time for questions. And this is the contact information that I promised you, and this will be linked, and you can always search for us too through our webpage. But Office of Student Financial Planning that Kristen oversees, there's a contact number there. So if you have specific financial aid questions, packaging questions, loan questions, etc., that would be the number and the contact for that. And then my office, the student billing office, we do a variety of things, but primarily for today's presentation, the student account office, there's a phone number there, and I've also provided our email address that's constantly monitored. And with that, questions?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We did get a couple questions as we were going along in the presentation. The first one was about books, and we actually had a couple, so I'm going to try and kind of smooth them together. Books are included in the cost of tuition. So there were a couple questions about, does that mean that books are rented and students have to return them at the end of the semester? And then what format are these books in? Are they ebooks or are they physical books?
Do you want to take that, Jessica, or do you want me to?
Either way.
How about I start and you can fill in what I missed?
Okay.
So the books are included as a part of tuition, which means the students are the owners of the books. So they get their books and they are theirs to write in, scribble in, highlight, and then either keep, or there will be textbook buyback at the end of each semester, which we do now. So if the students are not interested in hanging on to a particular book, if they had a rough semester in organic chemistry and they have no interest in keeping a commemorative object from that class, they will still have the option to participate in the book buyback program. Most of the books will be physical books. If a class has digital materials, any required digital materials for a class are included as well as a part of textbooks included. Textbooks is kind of an umbrella term that we're using to encompass essentially any textbook or print related material, whether it's physical or digital. Most of them will be hard copy, and the students will pick them up. They don't have to order them, which is really convenient this year. The bookstore will have schedules for all students, and they will put together basically a packet of their textbooks based on the student's class schedule. And there's a time during orientation when the students will swing by the bookstore with their orientation groups. They'll be set up outside with basically bags of books in alphabetical order for the students to just grab and go.
Yes,
Jessica,
ma'am.
did I miss anything?
I don't think so, no.
Related to that, there was a question about, are there any other education-related fees that students and families should be thinking about? You know, the cost of books is included, but I think, what about other things like maybe programming tools or anything else like that that a student might need?
The only thing that comes to mind would be like we separately add private music lessons. Um, Athletics will have some fees, but I'm trying to think of academics. Really not, besides private music lessons that I can think of at the moment.
We've tried in our pricing model to avoid a heavy reliance on fees. That is something that's different at every college and university. If you have fees for lots of different kinds of things, it's a great way to make your sticker price look a little less, because then, oh, by the way, there's these 13 fees that you have to pay for kind of anything and everything. It reminds me of the airline model. We do, as Jessica indicated, have some fees for some things: private music lessons, athletics. If your student's interested in Greek life, sometimes there are fees associated with participation in Greek life organizations. And then there is an orientation fee for new incoming students that you'll see reflected on your bill as well. But those are the biggies.
Yep.
We had a follow-up question about fees for labs. I'm not aware of any such thing. Is that correct?
No, I cannot think of any.
Okay, great.
That's a great example of a fee that's very common at other institutions, but that we try to bake as much of that stuff in as we can.
Great. Speaking of fees, we had another question about fees associated with payment. Are there any fees for processing your payment by a check or by a credit card?
Yes. So for credit card processing, debit credit card, the processing, the third-party processor does charge a 2.5%. So that is a fee that's incurred. So as I mentioned, a lot of people, that's why, as much as I hate paper floating around, I put on there that we do accept personal checks in the business office. You can mail those to us. So that price there is the price of a stamp. Otherwise, through Nelnet, again, that the third-party provider we use for our payment plan processing, you can actually do a one-time, large chunk payment. And I do think there's a nominal, like I want to say $5 fee on that one.
Great. Another question that came in was about the Parent Plus loan. It looks like we have a guest who might have recently applied for a Parent Plus loan, and they're wondering about the timeline for that, about how long they can expect that to be processed.
Yeah, and I can see the full text of that question as well. It can sometimes take a couple weeks on a plus loan, and I know obviously this was an unusual spring, and so some paperwork got backlogged. But based on the date that the person who chatted this question indicated, you should have heard something by now. So I have made a note of your name. I'm going to drop that to my colleagues in the financial planning office after this, and I'll have someone reach out to you on Monday. So we can sort out where you're at in that process. And just a reminder, Jessica said this already, but there are going to be some specific things like that if we're not able to cover kind of through the group question and answer session today, don't hesitate to get in touch with us at any time. If you're not sure who to call, your admission counselor is always a good place to start. If they can't answer the question, they'll know who can.
Right.
Okay, I'm taking a look for other questions.
I'm seeing a few more in the Q&A, Amanda, in addition to the chat box.
Yes, I see that now. Okay. So I see a question about uh, how long does it take to process payments on Nelnet? How long does that take to show up on a student's uh, record?
Should just be roughly 24 hours. So again, it is a third party, but we kind of all use the word batch with them every morning.
Right.
So not 24 hours would be my kind of rule of thumb.
We also have a couple questions about how to access the system to pay the bill. That's something we can post to the orientation page or follow up on as well.
Yes, and that would be great and easier for them probably if you did that. But in addition, under the business office webpage, under the monmouthcollege.edu, there is on that navigation bar. Well, I guess I can take you there. I'm still driving, right?
Yes.
Yes. If you look here in this, again, I called it originally green, gray, sage, whatever color this navigation bar is here. Right, 3 spots up from where my red circle is, where the tuition payment plan information or page is, there is a self-service information. But essentially, that's almost like a Word document tutorial is really what's kind of there. And again, your admissions counselors are well versed in that system as well.
We had a question, and I've seen this come up before. I think some individuals are seeing a signed disclosure alert when they log into their account. What does that mean, and what do the students have to do?
Yes. So we are in the process, fingers crossed, of getting that electronic. But for right now, they need to come to the business office and sign a signed disclosure. So I know it looks really alarming on your MyMC. I think it comes up with maybe a red bar, maybe it's yellow. And so it's like, whoa. But you're not in trouble. It's just we need you to come to the business office and sign it. And so essentially what that is when I was touching on FERPA, so at Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, there's a blurb there that says that you recognize and understand that. There's also a paragraph on there that talks about by virtue of registering for class at Monmouth College, you know and understand we're going to bill you for that service. That's pretty much what it is.
Okay. Let's see. It looks like we have another question about the meal plan. So if an individual wants to change the meal plan that they have, how do they go about doing that?
Yep. So there's actually 2 ways. What I put here is you can go to monmouthcollege.campusdish.com, which is a mouthful here, but and you can change your meal plan again through that first week of the semester. Otherwise, if you don't do that or haven't done that, when you get to campus, you can also go to our dining hall, and there is our food service office there, and they can assist you with changing that as well. Again, though, the same parameter exists for that first week kind of window.
Let's see. Oh, as a follow-up to the disclosure form we just talked about, is mailing that in an option?
Yes, that is an option. And you would just do Monmouth College, Business Office, 700 East Broadway, Monmouth, Illinois.
Okay.
Amanda, I think there was a question about outside scholarships that we haven't covered yet.
Yes.
So I'm going to read that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it was about if a family has already paid their bill for the fall semester and has recently received an additional scholarship, would that be applied to the spring semester?
That's a good question, Jessica, and maybe you can help me with it. I imagine that it would, probably by default, would they have the option to apply it to create a credit to the fall as well?
Yeah. So again, depending on how it comes in chronologically, and if it creates a credit on your account, I'm going to have a caveat / explanation for that so that you know what you're looking at when you're looking at it self-service. But if you get what I'll call a true and definitive credit because of that, you have two options. You can request that the credit be returned to you via check or ACH. Also in that self-service, there's an option for your student to set up ACH to get those payments back from Monmouth that way. Or you can, by default, if you do not basically request or notify us that you want that credit back, it will just roll over and apply to any future balance. So in this case, spring semester. But I do want you to know too, when you're in self-service and you're looking at your bill, at the section kind of towards the middle of the page, when you're looking at your details, so if you're expanding your details in self-service, you'll see all the classes that you're registered for, right? And it tells you how much that is in tuition cost. And then the middle section is showing you, federal loans, how much is applied to the balance there, and kind of all these reductions, right, to your outstanding balance. You want to pay close attention. There is a column there that refers to pending aid, meaning that we as an institution recognize that you have aid coming, and we are holding you, I'll say, blameless for that as far as timing. So when the system is calculating your out of pocket there, it's already capturing that kind of pending aid. So an example would be the Illinois MAP grant. We typically don't get that till the end of the semester because, state of Illinois. And so oftentimes students will see, well, there's an amount there kind of, but then they'll see that MAP grant showing as pending. And then the math in the system excludes that when it tries to tell you what your out of pocket is. So hopefully that made sense. I feel like I hopefully didn't confuse anyone there. But
great. All right, I think we'll take one more question and then we'll close the session so that we can keep on moving for the day. The last question I see is, when will 529 or College Illinois plans payouts be reflected on a tuition payment?
First, you need to make sure that we know about it. So what we do there is just what I described, where we hold the student blameless while we're waiting on, in this case, the state of Illinois to pay us the 529 funds. But we need to make sure that you see that. And if you have any questions about that, like if you think that you should be seeing something on your student's account that you're not related to a 529, I would encourage you to email the business office and make sure that we, because there's paperwork that my office does behind the scenes, basically. And so we want to make sure that communication has all happened.
Great. Thank you very much, Jessica. And thank you, Kristen, for giving us a presentation and answering these questions. Since we are at our time, I want to thank our guests for joining us this afternoon. As a reminder, we have been recording this session, so you can find it online later this week. I'd also say that if there are any questions that we didn't have time to address today or anything that you think of later, please don't hesitate to reach out to your admission counselor or to our offices directly. We really want to make sure that we can help you along the way and clear up any confusion or any questions that you might have. Lastly, the next session is from classrooms to career, supporting your students' success, and that will get started at about 1:45. So I want to thank you all again for joining us. Have a wonderful afternoon.